In this video, Drew presents an introduction to systems thinking and the system dynamics in En-ROADS. You'll learn more about each of these in the following modules in the training.
So here comes a system dynamics lecture. Are you ready? How do we orient ourselves about how we make change in the world? Most of the time, we react to events, things that come up on climate, putting out fires, dealing with floods. We react to events, but that we know is just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath, we can explore patterns of behavior. Hey, is flooding increasing over time in places? Is extreme heat increasing? Let's get ready. That leads us to adapt and invest in resilience. Let's get ready. That's a bit more powerful. But if we want to see long-term change, we have to affect systems at the level of systemic structure and mindsets. Systemic structure is how the system works, given its delays, given its feedback loop processes, given the ways that all the interrelationships in the system play out over time. That is the gold for systems thinkers. And so we try to direct your attention and policy world's attention at the root cause drivers. What's really driving change over time? Systemic structure and mindsets. What you do with the simulator is you run experiments to improve your understanding of those structures. And we have identified the top 10 or so systemic structures that are at work in the system. Here they are listed. So what I'm going to do right now is guide you through and remind you of all of these dynamics. Capital stock turnover delay. This is the idea that most infrastructure in the energy system, in forestry, and in land, but mostly industry, that infrastructure lasts a long time. Internal combustion engines, coal, oil, gas utility infrastructure, like the electricity generation, lasts sometimes 30 years. So if we have new stuff, the new stuff doesn't come online immediately. It has to wait for the old stuff to get out. Energy efficiency, it matters a lot as we bring on renewables and we get rid of coal, oil, and gas. Electric cars, when it comes to transportation, it turns over a little more quickly because that infrastructure, cars don't last 30 years. It's more like 15. Trucks and ships and stuff. That's the idea of capital stock turnover. Delays. It is a source of delays. Price demand feedback. You'll see this in the model a good bit, that energy demand and price are linked. If energy prices go down, cheap renewables, cheap this or cheap that, energy gets less expensive, demand goes up. Okay? So you'll see that dynamic. In the same way, carbon pricing and things like that increase the price of energy, energy demand goes down. This feedback process is built into the model, squeezing the balloon. You've noticed when you play with the model that coal, oil, gas, nuclear, renewables are all tightly coupled. And if you have less of one, you get more of the other. Less coal, more gas. Less gas, more coal. It shifts the demand in between things. More renewables, less nuclear, less in the other way around. It's the idea of like an old balloon where if you squeeze it here, it's going to pop up somewhere else. That is going to show up a good bit. The opposite is what we call crowding out, where you get more of something. The idea of more renewables, more of that green wedge, pinches down on the blue wedge, which is gas, or the brown wedge of coal. More of one thing, less of the other. It's the opposite of squeeze the balloon. But economists call it crowding out. Economies of scale, the very best news in the effort to reduce emissions technology-wise has been this dynamic. Wind and solar, the cost goes down, production goes up, more experience, production experience. We know how to make these things. The industrial processes, we reduce the per unit cost of production. Field experience, we learn how to lay them all out in fields, how to put them offshore if it's wind, how to put them in Kansas in the farm fields, how to hire the right teams to build them, how to hook them up to buildings so that they don't fall down, how to make sure the dirt doesn't get on them, how to clean them when dirt gets on them. Public acceptance. No one thought they worked. Now people know that renewable energy works. Research and development, new thin film, solar, etc. This is a reinforcing feedback loop. That's why there's an R in the middle that we call economies of scale. The more you build, the cheaper it gets to build. In fact, in En-ROADS, every doubling of cumulative experience is bringing down that cost 20% as governed by a progress ratio that you can change. People talk about tipping points. This is a positive tipping point, a positive tipping point. It is a good news tipping point, not like the others. Another tipping point that is not good news is economic damage from climate change. This is called the damage function often. Temperature goes up, impacts goes up, the gross domestic product around the world goes down because infrastructure is damaged and we're spending money on not on things that lead to more growth, but just fix the things that were busted. GDP goes down, energy demand goes down, burning coal, oil, and gas goes down, greenhouse gas emissions goes down, temperature goes down. This is a balancing feedback loop. The more climate change we get, it feedback around to have less climate change. Now, this works in the other direction. If we mitigate climate change and we have greenhouse gas emissions going down, then it works in the other direction and we actually get more energy demand. The other one that we're going to see is the carbon bathtub. Think of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere as a bathtub, an accumulation, a stock. It is filled by emissions, burning coal, oil, and gas, deforestation, land degradation. It is drained by carbon going into soil, into forests, into oceans. This is the net removal. If you've got more going in than is going out, as we have right now, those concentrations, parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere, go up. We call this the carbon bathtub.